Hello and welcome to this discussion with Ayten Amin, Director of Souad, moderated by Dr. Sonali Pahwa. This conversation is presented as part of Mizna's 2021 Twin Cities Arab Film Fest, which is taking place online and in person through Sunday, October 3rd. I'm Ruba Al-Malik, Literary Programs Manager with Mizna, a nonprofit arts organization that provides a critical platform for contemporary literature, film, art, and cultural production centering the work of Arab and Southwest Asian and North African artists. For more than 20 years, Mizna has been creating a decolonized cultural space to reflect the expansiveness of our community and to foster exchange, examine ideas, and engage audiences in meaningful art. Named City Page's Nonprofit of the Year in 2020 and a Regional Cultural Treasure in 2021, we published Mizna, an award-winning Swana Lit and Art journal, produced this Arab Film Fest, and offer classes, readings, performances, public art, and community events. I want to thank our festival sponsors and funders who are listed on the festival page. We at Mizna do this work as a labor of love and always prioritize supporting our artists financially. Please consider supporting our work to help provide programming like this discussion by making a donation at mizna.org. I'll now be making introductions and then turning my camera off so the discussion can proceed. I am very, very pleased and excited about this discussion today. I'll begin by introducing Dr. Sonali Pahwa. Sonali Pahwa is Associate Professor of Theater Arts and Dance at the University of Minnesota and anthropologist of theater and performance. She is the author of titled Theaters of Citizenship, Aesthetics and Politics of Avant-Garde Performance in Egypt. Her recent research on social media performance explores the use of YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok in the Arab Gulf countries. Pleased to have you, Doctor. And we're also so honored to be joined by the wonderful filmmaker of Souad, Ayten Amin. Ayten Amin has been working in the film industry for the past 12 years. Her first short film, Her Man, was selected by Clermont-Ferrand Film Festival. And after receiving several national prizes, it was exclusively acquired by Canal Plus in France. In 2013, her debut feature film, Villa 69, received the Special Jury Award for Arab Film at the Abu Dhabi Film Festival. Amin has received multiple prestigious awards and recognitions, including the Cairo Film Connection Award for Best Film or Hubert Ball Award at Durban Film Mart. She co-directed the documentary Tahrir 2011, which was selected at Venice International Film Festival and TIFF, and the film was nominated for Best Documentary in Cinema for Peace Award, Berlin 2012. Ayten's film Souad opens our festival at the Trilon Theater in Minneapolis on September 29th at 7 p.m. and is available on our online festival platform for Minnesota audiences through October 3rd. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Ruba, for this introduction. And thank you, Ayten, for making such a fascinating, stimulating, and smart film. I wanted to ask you a little bit about how your film connects and also departs from Egyptian film history. I was very much reminded of the collaborations between Muhammad Khan and Wissam Suleiman, for example, in their stories of young women looking for love and respect in Egypt. And of course, the title Souad makes me think of the iconic actress Souad Hosni, perhaps the original tough girl of Egyptian cinema. And I was fascinated by how you decided to set the film in Zaazee, which is a town we don't often see in Egyptian cinema. So could you please tell us how you chose the setting for your film?
Well, when I first had the idea, I started talking to Mahmoud Izzat, my co-writer, and Mahmoud worked with me in my first feature film. And then I started telling him about the story of the two girls and the relationship to the online community and And I was telling him, I had this idea from the beginning that I wanted to make this film outside of Cairo. And I was telling him that I want to set the whole film outside of Cairo. So actually, I was telling him from the beginning that I think that the guy has to be from Alexandria. I don't want her to go to Cairo. I actually want her to go to another place. So it started like this. And when I started talking to him, he started telling me about his followers, because he was kind of an influencer after 2011. He's a very well-known poet here. So on Twitter, he has like thousands of followers, and many of them actually are from small cities. So he kept telling me about his followers and girls who were talking to him and asking him about stuff, and they were very similar to the story we had in mind. So actually, it was like an indication that this is right, that this is what that really we want to portray those girls on screen. And most of the time, actually, in Egyptian films, you don't have the main characters outside of Cairo. Usually, it's like a few number of times that they were outside of Cairo. So actually, I was fascinated with the idea of portraying girls and women who are not here in the big city, and who we don't get to see on screen. And I think that they deserve to be on screen, and that they deserve to have a role, and that they deserve to be seen and heard. And so this is how it came about.
Great. And can I ask how you cast your lead actors in the role? Because they're so perfect and so unlike in many ways, many traditional actors in Egyptian cinema.
Well, the casting, it took us like a year, but the casting, it was stages. At the beginning, we did like auditions and casting for the followers of Mahmoud. But at the time, we did not write the script. So actually, when we did the first auditions, we were like improvising with them and talking to them for hours. And we had everything on tape just to be able to write the script. And then afterwards, when we started doing the casting for the film itself, it took us about like 8 to 9 months, because it was also on stages. We and we did the main castings. They were all in small cities, and the girls are not from Cairo, actually. So actually, we were trying to get girls who do not come from the capital to act. So actually, we received a lot of girls came to the castings, and we kept narrowing down. It was like 40. It was all in all like more than 250 girls, and then it was like 40, and then from 40 to 10, and then they were 4. It was like 2 sisters, and 2 sisters. It was either this or this. And I worked with them for 3 weeks, and then I decided to go with the girls that ended up in the film.
Wow, that's such an interesting process. Can I also ask you about why you wanted to make a film about social media, for what it shows us about Egypt today? I was really especially fascinated by how it offers this window into social class, as well as into this relationship between the smaller cities and Cairo and Alexandria.
Well, there are several layers in the film, and I don't think I was very aware of them when we were doing the film at the beginning. It was just like it was developing organically as we were working. So the social media, of course, was part of what we were doing, but it came about was at the beginning we were thinking of him as an activist. It was like in 2015, and then we decided not to go for this because probably it wouldn't go with the censorship. So we decided, no, we don't want him to be an activist, but we still want him to be someone who's popular. So we were thinking about, an influencer, someone who has thousands of followers. So we shifted the first draft of the script was an activist, and then it shifted to being an influencer. And then when we started thinking about being an influencer, I'm into social media very much. I follow a lot of people. I follow a lot of people in Egypt and everywhere. I'm very curious. It's something that feeds my curiosity. So I was following a lot of girls, a lot of boys, a lot of young men who were doing a lot of stuff. So I was fascinated with this world, and I started. I was also fascinated with the idea of incorporating this the way of shooting with mobiles into the cinematic style of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when we were auditioning for the boy and the guy in the film, we did a lot of auditions with influencers. They were real. One of them might have ended up in the film, but he was not the right choice. So actually, I talked to them a lot, and I worked with one of them for more than a month. So I got to know a lot about his life, about how it works, about the insights of everything. He was talking to me about his other friends, about the girls they talk to. So I had this whole world that was opening up for me as we were preparing for the film. And also with the girls, I have to say, because when I started working with the girls, they were I thought they were following a lot of people that I knew nothing about. So it was another world, and the guys who talked to them virtually, and the people they haven't met, even the little girl, there were guys who were trying to date her, and they were like 30 years old, and she was 13, and it was so it was like a totally different world. And we kept on going with them, and when we were doing the rehearsals, we kept changing the script as we were going, because we were doing a lot of improvisations with them, and they were telling us a lot about their lives. So I always went back to Mahmoud with these stories and with the improvisations that we made, and he would watch them, and he would rewrite the scenes according to what was happening. So it was like this. We kept going back and forth between what we were discovering with the actors and what Mahmoud knew, even as an influencer himself. So it was ongoing. It was not a decision from the beginning that I'm going to deal with social media as something. No, it was something that I discovered when I was working on the film.
That is so interesting. So you start out by looking into this other world in many ways, right? From when those of us who are in Cairo, Alexandria don't often see, and you end up with this new vision onto social media, which is so fascinating. It's clear that the stories you're giving us, you're telling us, definitely come from social media, and they come from these real lives of the young women and some of the men that you talk to. I'm also wondering what stories inspired you in terms of cinematic narratives, because this is a film that is so much about Egypt and so familiar and recognizable from Egypt, but has also translated so beautifully on the global stage. So I'm just curious about what inspirations you may have had, or other stories you might have been inspired by in cinema while writing this.
Well, I have to say that, like you were saying about Muhammad Khan, but also I was fascinated with Muhammad Khan during the 80s. When he was working with Khayri Bishara, Dawood Abd al-Sayed, Atif al-Taib, all of the new realism in Egypt in the 80s, they were like my favorite films, and they had a direct influence on me. And I knew Khan personally because I worked with him, and we were very close friends. So actually he was like my mentor. So it was part of the way I was thinking of cinema from the beginning, even before working in cinema. I was fascinated with their films. And at the same time, when I started studying cinema, I was watching a lot of European films. I started watching other films because when I was growing up, I only watched Egyptian films. I started like in my 20s watching other films from other countries than in the US. So it was my culture was mainly American films and Egyptian films. And then I started watching European films, and I was so fascinated with Abdel Latif Keshish, the French Tunisian director. I loved his films, and also of course with John Cassavetes, the American filmmaker. I admired everything that he did, and I admire the way he carried on with his career as an actor, as a professional actor, and making films on his own. With his wife and his mother, and it's fascinating the way he made independent films, and he had such a freedom. And I watched a lot of interviews with him. I was really fascinated by the way he was making films. So I think they had a direct influence on me when I was working, and also there's something that's a nice coincidence that happened in this film. That in the beginning, when I was talking to Mahmoud about the film, I gave him a film that I really love, and I told him that there is something in this film that I think it resonates with the story we're telling. And this film was called Alice in the Cities. It's a German film. It's by Wim Wenders. It's in 1974. So it was like our reference when we were writing the script. And then when we finished the film and we got the fund from the World Cinema Fund in Germany, Wim Wenders actually became a co-producer on the film, because we were looking for a producer from Germany. And by coincidence, Sameh got to know his company, and they became a co-producer on the film. So it was a nice coincidence that he was like the reference of writing the script of the film, and he came on board on it.
That is quite amazing. Could you also say a bit about the path from making this film very much in Egypt to getting it to all these amazing festivals like Cannes and Tribeca and such? Just could you share a little bit about that story?
Well, when we were working on the film, I always knew that the film will make it big, but I was not thinking about it. I was really enjoying because it was the first time for me when I was working on a film to do everything the way I wanted. I had such a freedom when I was working on this film, so I did everything the way I really wanted to. So when we were working, it was like we finished editing and we were still working on the sound, and we applied for Cannes, and I think that a lot of people told us that it will not make it because it's not similar to the other Arab films that were in Cannes before, or the Middle Eastern films. Yeah. So, and I remember Sameh, my producer, we were still working, and he was telling me the Cannes committee, they're watching the film, they're watching it every day. And I was like, at the time it was the start of the quarantine, and I was telling him probably they're bored because they have nothing to do and they're watching all of the films. So I really didn't see it coming at all. I remember very well that he was telling me this, and I had no doubt that that we were not going to be. I didn't think that we will ever be selected. And then we had this email suddenly that we really like your film. What do you want to do? Because Cannes will not be held this year. Do you want to wait for next year? And I didn't really understand the email when we got it. Hello, I called Sameh and I told them, what do they mean? Hello, you say me, but we're going to be selected. And I was like, does this, they did not say it by words that we're going to be selected, but everything is saying that we're going to be selected. So yeah, it was really amazing. And Tribeca also was amazing because Sameh actually met with them when we were in the development phase of the film, and he was trying to see how we would apply for funds, and he was really very happy that actually we were selected, because he remembered that when we first met them, the film was like, we had no money for the film, we were still in a very early stage. So it was like, he was so proud.
As you should be, and he should be. And I do hope as well that you get distribution in Egypt. I hope that's on the horizon, because I've been...
Yeah, it should be in December, I hope.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's quite an achievement in in the climate of everything that's going on in Egyptian cinema right now to get a fabulous public release. I have a quite different question now about the aesthetics of the film, which I also found really interesting, particularly the question of fashion and clothing. I really enjoyed the way your characters talk about clothes, shop for clothes, really make that a statement within the film. And I'm wondering how you worked with the clothes there, and worked with making them really a sign of social class and aspiration in your movie. Could you say a bit about the fashion design of the film?
Well, I think for me, it's like they're girls and young women. Of course, they're interested in fashion and clothes. That's very normal for girls in their age. But at the same time, I worked with Nayera, the stylist of the film. She worked with me in all of my projects, and she's really very good, and she was smart about. We were getting clothes from them. It was like, how do they dress, and a lot of stuff we used from their own. Most actually, what we used was their own clothes. So it was, of course, a part of it because we were trying to get them to look as normal as natural as possible. The way because Souad, it's like we have millions of Souad in Egypt, and we wanted her to look like the millions of Egypt who were walking the street, to have the same way they dress. And I think it was really smart of her because she made it look effortless, as if it's just her clothes, but she really was making choices. So it was she was very smart.
That's great, because it also blends so nicely with the social media aesthetic, right? Like the style of filming yourself in your bedroom and whatever you happen to be wearing at that time. So I guess I really liked that unstylized style of it, which fits so well with the theme of the film. But I also think it's a really interesting statement on social class as well, right? The way these young women dress, the t-shirts have something in English on them, right? A slogan in English. I remember Souad's t-shirt saying something like, "I don't dress for boys."
Yes.
Right? But in general, I wonder what came up through this really interesting process of improvising and writing your script. What window did you find that looking into social media, doing this research in social media, gave you into how social class, class dynamics, class mobility, and inequality are really working in Egypt these days?
So here the thing is, there is a statement about the class in Egypt in the film, but it's a very subtle statement, but it's there, of course, because you can totally see that Souad and Rabab, who live in a certain way in the Azi, they come from a conservative middle class family, lower middle class, and Ahmed, the guy she's following, he also comes from a lower middle class, but in Alexandria. So there's a difference because he's in a different city. So actually that's why he likes her, because there's something similar. She's similar to him, but at the same time he's aspiring to climb the social class, which is normal for the Egyptian guy. Yeah, it's normal here. People marry for the social class to get better in money, and it's part of the deal. So the thing is that he has a girlfriend who comes from a much higher social class, but at the same time he will be more attracted to Souad, and he would like to flirt with Souad because there's something similar, and there's something also about that she's fascinated and impressed by anything he says, and this is something Egyptian guys love, that she's easily impressed. So he would marry his girlfriend because it's better for him as a social class, but at the same time he would really be attracted to someone like Souad. So it's like this duality in him. And I don't think he's a mean person. He's not. He was just brought up like this. He has this privilege, and he doesn't even realize it till the second half of the film that he really did something. So it's so it was, yeah, of course it has to do with the social class, and it has to do with the also how men are brought up here, and I really I actually have a sympathy, or not a sympathy, an empathy for what's happening with them, because he is as troubled as Souad. He's not in a better place. He is as troubled. He has a double life. He lies. It's the same, but in another way. So at the end, what seems like a privilege is not really a privilege, because he's also trying to pretend and to in order to be accepted. So it's complicated here.
This is so interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but of course you're right that he has this gender privilege, which he realizes only later in the film. And this makes me wonder, are the young women who kind of discover their power in social media, right, by posing and wearing that red lipstick and flirting online, are they gaining some of that privilege too? Like, do they feel that they have some of that power, or is it eventually going to be sort of tragic, a kind of tragic illusion that they can have that?
It's tricky a bit, because I think that there's a freedom, but it's a fake freedom, because you have a freedom for certain hours of the day where you use the social media, but at the same time it's not real, because it's not really in your life. So I think that the thing is, it's like something for her to enjoy for 2 hours in the day, and at the same time she goes back to her normal life. So I think it gets more depressing.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know.
I agree that it's a very complicated and paradoxical dynamic, but you portrayed it so beautifully. So I just wanted to dig into that a bit. So, I mean, as you know, there's been so much controversy about young women on social media in Egypt, right? Like people like Haneen Hossam being jailed and arrested for like being too provocative on TikTok, for example. And it's very easy to just say social media doing harm to young people. And your film, of course, shows us so much more than that. So I wonder if you had to speak back to the critics, especially the Egyptian critics of social media, who say that it's just harming everyone's life and making them live in an alternative reality, perhaps even corrupting their morals. What would you hope they would see differently from your film?
So the thing is, it's not really corrupting their morals at all. The thing is, it's just exposing them to something else that they don't want them to be exposed to. So at the end, the gap just keeps getting bigger, and it's not about something wrong in the social media. It's about something wrong in our social life. So. I don't think we're criticizing the social media on the film as we're criticizing just the duality that we're living, and this is for me the issue, that why do we have to have two personalities? It's okay to be one and to be accepted.
Indeed. And in that respect, I was also fascinated that you basically have two personalities as your protagonists, right? It's almost halfway through the film that we switch from the perspective of Souad to that of her sister Rabab. And I was just fascinated first by the choice of those names. And Rabab, they're like this kind of accompanying instrument in some ways. But I wonder if you could say a bit about that duality as well, right? And how having two protagonists who are these two sisters illuminates that in some way?
No, the thing is, if I have to, yeah, if I'm rooting for anyone in this film, I'm rooting for Rabab, of course, because for me, of the three characters, she's the only one who's true. All of them lie, of course. All of the characters in the film lie, and that's something very normal because you have to lie in order to get by in your life here. So I understand very well that they all lie, and I'm not judging them for lying, but I'm rooting for Rabab because she's the only one who's not pretending to be someone else. She's actually more herself. And she has more courage than both of them. So actually, there's no duality for me between Souad and Rabab, because Souad is like Rabab for me is like the updated version of Souad. She's like more, I think not more mature, but some more and not grown up. But it's she's like not hiding, and that's the point. She's not hiding behind the lies, and she's not hiding behind another personality, and she's not she doesn't have to come up with lies about her life. She's just the way it is, and I hope that the younger generations are more like Rabab. I think they are. So
that's great. Yeah, she is this very grounded character who indeed will go far, I think, as an actor as well. She's a wonderful actor. So thank you.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Yeah. So just to close us out, since you have made this amazing, successful film, I wonder what new opportunities are coming your way and what plans you may have in the next year or so. What are you working on next?
Well, I'm working on a TV series with Netflix now. I'm shooting actually in a few days, and at the same time, I still have a project with Mahmoud also. We're still working on the treatment of my next film. So for me, like because I have a parallel career with TV. I did a TV series in Egypt that was a big hit. So I'm like in cinema, I work on more films for myself, or more art house films, the personal films. And for TV, I'm working on much projects like that are for the masses a bit. They're in, and for me it's a nice combination, because when I'm working on TV, I develop a lot of experience, and I get to try out a lot of things that become very useful for me when I go back to making my own films.
Could I ask about the Netflix show? I'm very curious.
It's about teenagers also.
Well, when can we look forward to it, do you think?
When? What? Yeah. I can't hear.
Sorry, when do you think we might be able to watch it?
I think next summer. I guess next summer.
Okay, fabulous. I'll be looking out for it if it gets to Netflix USA, inshallah. But thank you so much. Great. Thank you. And I guess over to Mizna now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.